If I could serve our country without being expected to kill people, I never would have been a conscientious objector. I enjoyed the challenge and satisfaction of knowing that I volunteered for some of the most demanding training, like jumping out of airplanes, rappelling out of helicopters, 25-mile road marches. It's impossible to encapsulate in words the feeling of camaraderie you achieve when you train so hard and so often with people that you can trust with your life. There really isn't anything else like it in the world. Neither is there anything like the pain that comes with the realization that you are capable of killing another human being without question for people that you have never met and have no reason to trust. It shatters any semblance of a positive self-image that you might think that you have cultivated. When I came to the realization, it was too late. I had been on the battlefield for 11 months, and I had seen my share of intense combat. I had smelled death, tasted the acrid carbon powder of the gun smoke, and heard the cries of mothers outliving their children. Sitting outside a hospital in Samara in October of 2004, little did they know that I wept with them, safely hidden from my platoon because a display of such raw emotion would have been seen as a liability. I had seen bodies outnumber available bags, draped over another in an exterior storage room. My mind wandered recklessly, and I saw my father's face peering out for me from behind a thick black zipper. For a while, maybe my training proved sufficient. Perhaps it had adequately numbed me from the stark reality that I had encountered in Iraq. I returned home and reflexively forced these experiences and others like them to the furthest reaches of my mind, hoping that time, in fact, healed all wounds. It doesn't. It took me almost an entire year and a divine slap in the face to rouse me from the trance of unquestioning obedience and unthinking allegiance. But nothing could steal from me the trust and faith I had in my fellow service members. 5 years on active duty had shown me the heights of the human experience that some of you in the audience may never have the privilege of comprehending. Unfortunately, that privilege is not without a price, which comes as the realization of the depths of human depravity and callousness. To be human is to be fully capable of the most awful acts of evil and the most audacious acts of charity. I both found and lost my humanity wearing the uniform of a United States soldier. As painful as that has been, I wouldn't trade the experience for anything. I would not be the man I am today if I had not learned the lessons I did in service to our country. For this reason, when I came to what the regulations called my crystallization of conscience, which is a misnomer because our consciences are always evolving, I decided that I would not seek discharge. The esteem in which I held my compatriots prevented me from parting company with them. However, Christ bid me drop my weapon, and I had no choice but to respond. Facing a second deployment, I was literally between a rock and a hard place. My CO application in June of 2006 was an attempt to reconcile my principles with my patriotism. I was not convinced that leaving the military would absolve me of my fair measure of responsibility to prevent or end the wars fought in our name. Would I be any less complicit as a tax-paying civilian? Or could I seek alternatives to violence in the midst of war? I was inclined to believe the latter, which is why I took the road least traveled. Fortunately, I had a few shining examples of non-combatant courage that had paved the way, such as Desmond T. Doss and Joseph G. LaPointe, both conscientious objectors who were awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. It is my distinct honor, in fact, to have discovered recently that I had deployed to combat in the very same unit of a third Congressional Medal of Honor winner who was also a CO, Thomas W. Bennett of Bravo Company, 1st of the 14th Infantry Regiment, 25th ID. After my commander berated me as a coward and insisted I was somehow aiding the enemies of America by asking to return to Iraq unarmed, I was forcibly reassigned to a unit that would not deploy. One of the most tumultuous days of my life was spent watching my unit leave for combat without me. 10 of them did not return from that tour. Some of them are buried at Arlington. Despite being denied the opportunity to serve nonviolently in Iraq, I eventually found my way to 2 war zones as a peacemaker. First, with Christian peacemaker teams to Israel-Palestine while on terminal leave before my discharge in 2006, and again just 2 months ago with friends to Rutba, Iraq. In each combat theater, my heart felt as though it was being forced through a rusty paper shredder, as I heard so many stories of indescribable grief and pain, stories in which my brothers in uniform had a starring role. Just as I had before, in a hospital in Samara, I waited until I had some time alone to rest my weary soul. Music has become therapeutic to me, and in Iraq, I stumbled across some song lyrics that speak directly to my situation. I grabbed my notebook and began to scribble, altering the lyrics slightly and adding a verse of my own. I immediately felt one heartbeat closer to redemption. Allow me to share part of my journal with you now. This is adapted from a song called The Flame Deluge by the band Thrice. I feel that I was meant for something more. My curse, this awful power to unmake. And ever since they found their taste for war, they forced me onto those whose lives they'd take. To Baghdad, I and mine hath brought ugly sights so few before hast borne. Though deceived, uniformed, and uninformed, we fought. Once alone, like you and yours, we mourn. Thank you for being here tonight to listen.